First question, giant $200 million CGI movies, superhero movies, slasher films. Why do a small adult drama shot in a couple weeks in Montreal? Why do this movie?
Precisely because it's not one of those other genres of movie that you said. I think I was sort of looking for something a little bit more sophisticated, and this was absolutely it. I just found it's not a very particularly interesting answer, but I literally was sitting on my sofa at home in London, and I read the script in one sitting, and I enjoyed reading it so much. I thought this is such an interesting story. These characters are so cleverly woven together. They're real. The themes were very all-encompassing, sort of themes of love and regret and plagiarism and passion and ambition and comeuppance or lack thereof, and I just wanted to be a part of it. Secondly, I thought it was interesting that the character that Brian and Lee had in mind for me was went through so much in terms of emotion. I mean, my character runs the full gamut of emotions within 20 minutes without hardly breathing a word. And I thought that was not only ironic in a film called The Words, but also a kind of an interesting challenge in terms of trying to convey that emotion and a relationship that goes through as much as Celia's and the young man's does. Without having the tool of words as a weapon.
And one of the interesting things that's been happening is as we screen the film, we screened for a group of young women the other night who came out talking about the romance and how lush the photography was and how beautiful the settings were. And then we've screened for a lot of press who have kind of latched on to the plagiarism and kind of what's been going on in the news.
Yeah.
What's your version of The Words? When you see this movie, what's the version you walk away with?
I mean, I think the interesting thing that combines those two, which is it's the fact that you can link these two things together via the notion of the choices that we make and the regret that accompanies them or doesn't. And I think that Bradley's character makes a choice to earn his success in ways that are less than entirely moral, and maybe he suffers for it, maybe he doesn't. Maybe there are repercussions, maybe there aren't. Maybe there are repercussions for Dennis Quaid because of what Bradley Cooper did. In the same way, there's absolutely the moment of regret for my character on the train when he sees the life that he could have led. He sees a little snapshot of it, several years later, and so I think you can. My character deeply regrets that Celia lost his story, deeply, and cannot look her in the eye after that moment. And yet, deep down, later on, when you see Jeremy Irons, he's got such a melancholy about him, it was the wrong decision.
And you mentioned it, you touched on this a moment ago, but you and your co-star Nora have very few words, relatively limited screen time in which to kind of showcase this epic romance that will haunt them for the rest of their lives. Were there any things, perhaps with the filmmakers, that you did to kind of prepare, and how did you manage to cram so much into just a few minutes?
It was in my contract. Jeremy Irons must voice over this segment of the story, which I did. I think it does help a lot because because in his voice there is a life lived, so that something that life goes on after this, and there is a reaction to it. By those characters. We wanted to make, there's no point in trying to tell the whole sweeping story in one go. You just tell it moment by moment, and we tried to make those moments as organic as possible. We improvised a lot, some of which is left in the movie, most of which is taken out or turned down as Jeremy talks over it. But this is the nature of film acting as opposed to on stage, which is that you live moment to moment, and you make that moment real and make that moment work, and then hopefully when you tie it all together, it will resonate.